morning. As you mentioned, I'm from Las Vegas. This is exceptionally early. I am pumped full of caffeine. I once told a room full of Clojure developers that we were now a Python shop. You remember that bottom quadrant in the last talk where it said chaos? Yes. These engineers looked me in my face and said, "That's the only reason we work here. We'll quit." Great. OK. I was prepared for this, though, because I had not come to this decision lightly. The startup I was at was facing an extinction-level event. We had a $1 million deal on the table, and we had to sign it. Signing that deal had more to do with writing new code than it did with maintaining our existing Clojure code. And I had tried in vain to hire more developers, and nobody wanted to write Clojure except the guys that were already in that room. So I made the call. And we signed that deal. That startup went on to have a successful exit. And all of the Clojure developers did leave, but not immediately. Everybody ended up exactly where they were supposed to be. That was the right call. Now, not every decision that I've made as my impersonation of Olivia Pope of startups has been that dramatic. It's also not the most dramatic thing that's ever happened, but I would have to make you sign an NDA. This talk is going to be all about what I have learned landing in that situation, whether by design or accidentally, how you pay down management debt without burning out, or what to do when everything is on fire. I especially want to talk about this in the context of burnout, which is a very common topic of discussion right now, and it feels a little bit like this: Sisyphus pushing this rock up a hill only for it to roll back down, and the only person who thinks that's fun is strength athletes like me, because I was like, oh, give me a turn. I'm going to do it. Most of us don't want to feel like this, and I'm going to tell you the secret to preventing burnout right now. Here are 2 facts you must accept. 1, you cannot control everything. You cannot fix everything. You can't control everything, so just take that deep in your heart and really feel that. The second thing is you will never reach the end of your to-do list. Let me say that again. If you are good at your job, you will never reach the end of your to-do list. You will continue to notice things that can happen. You don't have time for all that. There's Barbara Kruger is a wonderful artist, and she has this sign that says belief plus doubt equals sanity. And in our case, it's the belief that you can do everything within your power to affect a situation, but doubt that luck is going to be on your side. And if you balance those 2 things out, you can push that boulder up a hill, and even if it falls back down, you will understand why it happened. So this is what you must do to prevent burnout. 1, respect your own needs. Fasten your own oxygen mask before assisting others. And 2, ruthlessly prioritize the things that you can control. That's what the rest of this talk is about. How do we ruthlessly prioritize the things that you can control? I give you a chart. If this looks like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's intentional. It's a motivational theory of psychology that says each of these needs must be met in order before you reach the top. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom is physiological, the top is self-actualization. This is why you don't give someone who's been in the desert, hasn't had food for 3 days, a self-actualization help book, right? You give them some water. So that's a little bit how this is going to work. So if we start from the very bottom, your physiological tier needs of engineering management are your day-to-day operations. This may or may not be agile. But this is fundamentally what the engineers are doing now and what they're going to do next, and how are they surfacing real-time information to decision makers. I was at one company, I was running basically a startup within a startup, and when I got there, leadership said, well, we don't know if they're meeting OKRs, we don't know what the product vision is, and I walked in and said, they don't even have a board? They're not doing stand-up. You have no idea what any of these people are doing. Please don't talk about product direction until we can answer that question. We got them aboard, we got them a stand-up, and then we were able to proceed. You have to do this first. Not only will you relieve some amount of frustration from people who are probably frustrated in this situation already, you'll start to build some of that trust, and then your engineers can truck along while you move on to your next step. Layer 2, this is product direction. This includes your product roadmap as well as your relationship with your product manager. As an incoming engineering leader, especially when something's in crisis, there's a bunch of unique things that can happen here. Your product manager is probably stressed out. You might need to be their therapist for a little bit. I've been in situations where I was the first engineering leader ever, or the first in a long time, and sometimes product management, in trying to do their job to the best of their abilities, they need to partially do your job. You might have to redraw some of those lines. They were doing what they needed to do to accomplish their goals, and now you're here. You might have to help renegotiate that. Maybe you'll reduce some of their burnout too. And then you need to know what's coming after the next. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, however far out that roadmap is will depend on the particulars of your company and your situation. But this is where we gather that information. Step 3 is performance management. Is your team on board with the company direction? This is why you need to know your product roadmap before you have these conversations. Are they set up to succeed? One caveat that I will say here is it is not your obligation to retain every single member of your team at all times here. It is your job to envision what a healthy team looks like at the end of this and make sure those people are in a position to succeed. And sometimes that means gracefully helping people transition to something else. And sometimes it means telling the Clojure developers that they need to write Python now, I'm sorry. Sometimes you got to do that. So now you know who's going to be around, who's happy, who's not, what does your team look like at this moment? And we move on. Step 4 is organizational management, which is not talked about probably as much as it should. It's also, depending on your level, you may not be a decider in this. I worked at places where the way their teams were laid out was their special sauce, and there was no amount of persuading I could do that even though we could all see that the benefits of that team structure were not benefiting, and we needed to do something else, but it was basically a non-negotiable. So if this is applicable to you, I will say one thing that is unequivocally true, which is that the way you structure your teams will determine and influence how your software is built. And you can end up with little pieces of code that are really important for your business that have been left out in the cold, and as your code, entropies, you end up with these places that nobody wants to touch. So think about how your teams are structured, and then also, do you have enough headcount? And you have all of this context from those previous steps to determine whether your headcount is enough or not. And finally, we move on to your capstone project, which is your literal technical debt. This is not last because it is least important or because it is the most time insensitive, because oftentimes it is neither of those things. This is last because you probably, unless you work at some magical unicorn place, you probably have to convince a non-technical stakeholder to get on board with your plan. And the best way to do that is to have all of this other information. Remember, your team is immediately unblocked on whatever they were working on. You've aligned with product management on their roadmap already and started building that relationship. You know where your team is at, and you know what your organizational structure needs to look like. So now you can say, these are the things we need to do in the next 6 months. We need to do these things before these features. This is why it matters. And you are fully equipped to have that conversation. Because I found that sometimes you come into a situation, it's immediately apparent to you that this technical debt needs to be handled. But if you can't convince the other people that need to buy in, it doesn't matter what you know. Because this is one of those things that you cannot control. So we do our best to influence others, and we do that by having the most amount of context so that we can answer all of their questions immediately, so that they're not saying, well, this is just engineering wants to engineer. No, engineering cares about the business too. And we bring all this context with us in order to demonstrate that. If you have made it this far, congratulations. You have probably had a tremendous impact on your organization already. And you did this, hopefully, while still caring for your own needs. If you need to go to the gym, you go to the gym. You need to take care of your kids, touch some grass, take a hike, pet a dog. Please do those things. I promise you, your team really needs to see you do that. Because if your team really admires you, and you say you should take a day off, and they turn around and say, when are you taking a day off? You need to have an answer. I'm not speaking from experience at all when I say that, but you need to fasten your own oxygen mask before assisting others. And then, maybe with the help of Frankie's hierarchy of engineering leadership needs, you have ruthlessly prioritized the things that are in your control. So you know that you have, to the best of your abilities, done things in the right order so that you can have the biggest impact that you can, because your time is limited and it's valuable. And that's how we prevent burnout. So wherever you end up next, whether you need to tell a bunch of people they can't write their favorite language anymore, or you need to tell people that, yes, they have to do stand-up and that that's not optional, or you're working with a product manager who's on the verge of a nervous breakdown, just remember to prioritize your needs first and then ruthlessly prioritize the things that are in your control. And if you can do that, everything's going to be OK. Thank you.